Okay, like a lot of people on YouTube, always having a best of the year list. I don't know if I would prefer to do a worst of the year list as well. I don't know, that seemingly comes off negative, and I know some of the films that I would have on there would be in disagreement with a lot of people, but I don't know. But definitely wanted to create a top 10 of the year just because I think it's fun to look back and think about the movies that has stuck with you all year long, or movies that you just really enjoyed. I will say that I decided to watch. There were some movies that came out that got some good recognition that I have not been, just for whatever reason, did not get a chance to see. So I wanted to watch those before I finalized this list, and none of them made the top 10 after I watched them. So, although one was very close to making the top 10. But as far as some honorable mentions, we'll go with 14, The Killer. I thought that was a really good movie. I didn't think it was as good as it could have been. I was almost hoping for something that blew me away as far as the genre that it was, but it was just a really good movie. 13, we have Dream Scenario. Another really good movie. I didn't think it was great enough, obviously, to be in the top 10. There could have been a few little changes here and there, but I thought it was a really good movie, and I really liked how the situation evolved and escalated throughout, and of course Nicolas Cage was great. 12, Sound of Freedom. You know, this is one of those movies that so many critics, I guess you could say, refused to even watch or discuss. And I'm not exactly sure why. If you're a movie critic, is it your job to watch as many things as possible that you can theoretically even begin to watch in a year? Or should you just watch the movies that you want to watch? This was a movie that, even though it was getting praise and everyone who actually saw it liked it, some people just really just had this negative opinion on it that I don't get. But I thought it was really good. It was not at the caliber of a superb great movie, but it really did a great job of making you think and making you look outside of a bubble that you thought happens in other countries. Of course, a lot of this does take place in another country, but a lot of it hits home as well, which I think a lot of people don't want to think about, or maybe don't want to believe. Tough to say. Number 11, The Holdovers. A great movie. I compare it to Sideways just because of the director and the lead actor in it. But Sideways is definitely a movie that, if it came out this year, it would have been in my top 10. So I don't think it's quite as good as Sideways, but it's still a really, really great movie. It was one of those movies where in a review I wrote for it. I didn't film an actual review for it or anything like that because I saw it after it was in theaters. But it was a very basic, simple story, but it was thoroughly entertaining because of the script and because of the directing, the acting, the editing. It just goes to show you how a film is made with a thin, this is not a super thin storyline, but with a really basic story. So starting with the top 10, now these are the movies that personally I thought were great, and on another level I just liked. Asteroid City, number 10. You know, I've not seen this on anyone else's top 10 list. I've seen it maybe mentioned a couple of times as far as honorable mentions, but I really enjoyed Asteroid City. I cannot wait to watch that again. I'm waiting for a 4K to come out because that's how I really want to watch it. But I don't know. Maybe once all the other Wes Anderson movies start coming out more and more on 4K, maybe this one will be released on that format as well. But yeah, a really entertaining movie throughout, and just the more I thought about it, the more it stuck with me, and the more I figured things out about it, the more parts added up, and the more I was able to unscramble things that I think might have confused other people. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. Number 9, a movie that's definitely not going to be on anyone's top 10 list, but just like a couple of the other movies on here, I just had a great time. Scream 6. Scream 5 was on my top 10 list from the year before. And as far as a slasher movie goes, this type of movie, I think they just did a fantastic job of it. So yeah, number 9. Number 8, John Wick 4. When it comes to series like, getting into the 4th installment, you don't expect them to continually get better. The Mission Impossible series is one that seemingly almost kind of got better as it went on. I really like John Wick 1, but 2 took it to the next level, then 3 took it to another level, and then 4 is just on yet another level. So it's really a strong 3-hour movie that I just thoroughly enjoyed. Not something that's going to be at the Oscars or anything like that, but as far as something that I buy and watch and really think is a superb action movie, that's it. 7, a movie that's probably on a lot of people's bottom 10 list, Napoleon. Now, as far as reasons why people say they don't like it, I mentioned this before, is they don't like how there was no accents or it was not in another language with subtitles. I don't care about that. That's almost good for this sort of movie, because another thing I hear about it is historical inaccuracies. I was presented with a movie that focused on how a man bounced back and forth between a relationship and a military career and a political career, and how each one of those things kind of changed how he acted around his contemporaries, I guess you could say, the people in the, his wife, definitely, but then, I don't know, the generals and the lieutenants or whatever in the army and the politics and things. I just really like that dramatic aspect of it. And a movie does not have to be historically accurate for me to think it's good. I mean, there's plenty of movies, and it's almost kind of expected that if you see any sort of historical movie, I mean, you cannot expect 100% accuracy. There's a few out there that are just top notch when it comes to being historically accurate, but there's so many others. I think of Gladiator from Ridley Scott. Trying to compare two movies, kind of like Sideways and Holdovers. You have another Ridley Scott movie and another movie with Joaquin Phoenix, and no one complained that there was just regular English speakers in that. No one complained that it was historically inaccurate. So why complain about Napoleon? It's not like Napoleon started with a title card that said this movie is 100% true. Then I can see why someone would complain about it. But I got a dramatic gist of Napoleon's life, and since then I've been able to watch documentaries and be more interested in uncovering the facts of the situation. And I also like the fact that sometimes who knows if what historical aspect is true or not. Who knows if what's thought to be in the history books is 100% accurate. And that was something that the movie even brought up itself. So next, we have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And as far as pure action goes, and having when it comes to John Wick 4, that's action. With the Mission Impossible series, you have spy and thriller being a bit more of a heavier component to them. And I liked everything when it came to the villain in the movie. I liked that. I liked how the villain of AI was kind of like unfolding as it went along, and seeing how pieces were moving around and things were being set up. And it felt like a great first half of a 2-part movie. It did not feel like it was, you were only getting a half a movie. It felt like you got a fulfilling half rather than just being left empty inside. I thought it was once again, some great action, just terrific pace, some just great moments. Even when there's ridiculous things, like when he flies into the train towards the end, that was just pure enjoyment. And so I remember walking out of that movie just being on a little bit more of a high than John Wick 4, just because it just hit all the correct notes for me as far as what I'm looking for. Was it as good as the previous Mission Impossible movie? Maybe, maybe not. But that just goes to show you how good the previous ones were. I still really thoroughly enjoyed it. So number 5, a movie that not a lot of people are talking about, and not a lot of people talked about when it came out, but Infinity Pool. This was just a deep, enthralling, otherworldly, almost crazy movie. There's some science fiction aspect in it, just like another movie that's coming up on this list, that makes it seem like it's not in the real world, but then so many things ground it as if it were in the real world. I thought it was shot beautifully. I thought it was thought-provoking. I thought everything was great. I wish it was more of a movie that more people saw and more people can praise. And sure, it's not a movie for everyone, just because there are some definite oddities throughout. But I just had a blast with it. I thought I thought it was a personable movie for me, because I don't know, it would just be one of those wild situations to be in if you were in a real life situation where you went on vacation and this stuff happened. And I don't know, it made a typical vacation seem like something that could be the most wildest vacation that you've ever been on. And I don't know, I liked it. Number 4, Killers of the Flower Moon. A touch long, but that did not bother me as much as movies that are 30 minutes shorter can. Sometimes you can have a 2.5 hour long or 2 hour. I mean, there can be a movie that's 20 minutes long and it could feel too long if it's poorly done. But I was there with the movie throughout the entire run time. And yeah, there was a little bit of slowness about it, but no matter what, even if it was feeling a touch slow, maybe that's why it's not number one, but there was always something happening on screen that was entertaining. And I really liked the way that the movie was laid out, as far as even the third act seemed to be having more action as far as dramatic tension in the movie. It really held me throughout the entire movie, and of course all the acting and all that stuff was great about it. Once again, DiCaprio and Scorsese hit a home run for me. We have number 3, Oppenheimer. I thought Oppenheimer was the biggest takeaway I had with it was, yeah, it was 3 hours long. Did I feel the runtime? No, not really whatsoever. I mean, you know that it's 3 hours long because you're sitting there watching it, and I'm not an idiot. I know that, hey, this is a long movie, but visually and through audio, whether it be sound effects or music or just the way things are said, it holds your attention to the screen, and you don't want to even look away to check your phone. I mean, not that I would do that in the movie theater anyway, but so few movies have ever just grabbed you and held on and made you not want to look away. So I will always remember just the sense of just being mesmerized by the great filmmaking, and a nice return to form from Christopher Nolan, whose Tenet was a bit of a letdown for me. I really did not like Tenet, and I really, really thought Oppenheimer was a fantastic Tenet. And so, number two, Poor Things. This was a movie that, like a many a movie, I didn't know hardly anything about other than the lead actress. And yeah, it was weird. There was some science fiction type of events surrounding like a lot of the Frankenstein aspects of it. But boy, it was so weird, but it never once felt like it was weird for the sake of being weird. It was setting up a world that does not exist. And so therefore it had this kind of fairy tale type setting. Yeah, it felt like it was in the 19th century. Definitely, you can tell, by the lack of vehicles or things like that. So you kind of had a grasp on the setting, but then you would see this ship in it, and you're like, well, that's definitely not an actual ship. That looks nothing like a real ship at all. The city that the cities that they visit and the places that they go, just seem otherworldly and are perfect settings for this crazy story. And then the acting by Emma Stone, her character, fascinating. I thought that I remember watching it and thinking she's doing a really good job, but she's doing things extra that I think a lot of actresses would not want to do or might be a little too afraid to do. But Emma Stone took them there, and as well as Mark Ruffalo, as well as Willem Dafoe, who does it quite often in a lot of his movies, but he once again was great. It was one of those movies that you think about everyone in the audience around you, and you think there's got to be people in this audience who are just hating the movie right now, and there's probably some people who are just loving it like me. And then at the end of it, it gets a round of applause, and any fears that you had while watching it, as far as fearing that you're the only person who likes it, when people come together at the end and show their appreciation for it, it was just a really great experience, and one of the few movies that I just you constantly think about, and you constantly wonder, what themes or what ideas are being said, what some things to think about. It's a great discussion movie. What does it mean by this particular segment of the film? What did that mean? Is that trying to relate to something today, or is it trying to say something opposite of something today? It's not, to me. It never tried to preach about something. It might have had a particular subject, but it felt that it could go either way on that subject, and I was just mesmerized about how great of a film it was. And number one, was a movie that did not come out in 2023. It, for me, though, was a first-time watch. And I saw it in the movie theaters. So I'm going to count that as a movie that I'm going to put on my top 10 this year, just because to me, it was a new movie. And if you don't agree with me, whether you can just move everything up a notch on the list. You can add The Holdovers as the number 10 spot. And then you can just add this as kind of an honorable mention. But The Abyss. To me, it was a brand new movie. I went to the theater and saw it, and I was blown away by how good it was. They say, well, they don't make movies like that anymore. The Abyss for me was like the epitome of that saying, because there was just so many lines of dialogue or the characters or the way things, the way it kept escalating and building up and things happening and just multi-layered. I was telling myself while I was watching it, boy, this is some of the best fun I've had in the theater all year watching a movie. I was overjoyed by things that were happening. I was literally on the edge of my seat through several scenes, and it was just one of the best experiences that you could hope to have while watching a movie, especially this type of movie. I mean, you're not going to have this experience with Poor Things just because that's a totally different movie. But when you have an action adventure, sci-fi type of alien type of adventure movie, you expect to have those feelings of just enjoyment and pleasure. And boy, I got that big time, and I was so impressed by how much I liked it. It didn't matter that it came out over 30 years ago. It felt just as fresh now as I'm sure it did back then. So yeah, I was very, very impressed with it, and I knew immediately as soon as I was done watching it that it was going to be my favorite film of the year. You know, all the other movies on the list, they're all great, but this one, I was just amazed by how much I liked it. Considering that I was almost afraid that it was not going to be something I was going to like after all these years. So I wish I would have seen it before, but boy, I'm glad I got to see it in the method that I was able to finally get to see it now. So yeah, that's my top 10 with some honorable mentions for this for the 2023. I might do a video talking about movies that I did not like or movies that I was underwhelmed by, things like that. Let me know. Put a comment. Give me let me know if that might be something you might want to see. There would be some movies on that list that would anger people. I know. But that's the way it goes. Sometimes you watch a movie that is just not going to be for you, and you can understand why other people might like it, but it's not for you, and it might end up on your bottom 10 of the year. I don't know, but yeah, let me know if you want to see that list. I will create it and make it if I get any interest in that whatsoever. And then yeah, let me know what you think about my list. If you agree with some of the films that I include on here, as far as, I mean, like, who's going to have Scream 6 on the list? Who's going to have Napoleon? I know a few people might have John Wick 4 or maybe Mission Impossible. Definitely lots of people is going to have Oppenheimer and Poor Things, but I don't know. Infinity Pool. That came out, and no one's talking about that right now, and it should be talked about. And I remembered it it was almost a year ago that I saw it, and I remembered it. But yeah, yeah, let me know in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next one.